What's going on, everybody? Welcome to our Pittsburgh Steelers mock draft. Now, I put together a very beautiful mock draft here. I'm going to break down why I chose what I chose. And then I got my co-hosts here today with me, Michael Williams and Adrian Soup Campbell. How you guys doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing good. I'm looking at what you got on the screen. I'm a little upset because it looks too good for a team that's not mine.
Yeah,
I got you. I got
I'm
you.
doing well, and I agree.
Love it, man. So we were talking about this before. When the NFL Combine comes, and it happens. So January 4th, we're filming this for those who don't know. Okay, I'll drop this within the next 24 hours. There's going to be a few quarterbacks that slide. It could be Michael Penix Jr. Jaden Daniels may stink it up. It could be Drake May, right? I think guys like Bo Nix will definitely be there. It could even be a valuable, second round pick quarterback, right? There'll be people who take a slide down, and then of course you have small town, small school quarterbacks who will be hanging out. But Jaden Daniels was in this mock draft, and I selected him, man. And I think if something happens, I don't know what would happen because he won the freaking Heisman. He's one of the best quarterbacks in this year's draft. But I have Jaden Daniels. I don't think a universe exists where the Pittsburgh Steelers do not get a quarterback. I think the current quarterback situation is he needs more development. He needs more time. He's put in there, and it's just not working out. It's not clicking. As most jobs would say, you're fired. So another quarterback here in the first round for them. Then we got Tyler Guyton coming out of Oklahoma, light on his feet, great mauler. And if you're bringing in a quarterback, what quarterback is best friend outside of receiver is going to be a tackle. Tyler Guyton is that guy. He's a big, strong, physical tackle, man, and he gets after it, man. Definitely one of the few shining spots on this year's Oklahoma Sooners team. Then we got Chris Jenkins, or should I say Chris the Mutant Jenkins. Now, we got the national championship coming up this week, and I'm excited to see him ball out. He's been balling all year. He's had a massive year. Matter of fact, Soup, you're a lifelong Wolverines fan. Tell us a little bit about Chris Jenkins, man, and what he
Man, Chris, I love Chris's story, man, because when he coming out of high school, I think he was a 3-star prospect coming out of high school, and they had a lot of concerns that this guy didn't have what it takes to play at the next level. Because he was pretty raw coming out of high school, lacked a lot of interior pass rush moves. I think you've seen him improve that, but I think he's gone from a guy that wants to get after the passer to a guy that's just content to make you miserable and make it a long day at the office, clogging every single hole that you have along your offensive line. There's going to be no run lanes with Chris Jenkins, and God forbid that you actually let him get off of a block. He does have the ability to get after that. Love his attitude. I think he steps into a locker room and he's one of those guys that you could see as a potential captain instantly right away. But if you need help stopping the run, Chris Jenkins is absolutely your man.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it first. And if he's there at 113, heck, I could even see, if he's there at 82, I could even see him going at number 49. So those are interchangeable to me.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got Kyrie Jackson.
How?
Beast.
How?
Long arms, quick, tall, great frame. Look, if bumblebees could play football and run 22 miles an hour, Kyrie Jackson is going to take and cover him. He's going to cover him, man. He is so sick, man. I'm a Kyrie Jackson fan.
Doug, just real quick, like the way I see him, especially if he falls at 113, Kyrie Jackson has a lot of traits that remind me of Tariq Woolen when he was coming out, right? He's just
from UTSA,
long, lanky. He's like 6'3", 6'4". I mean, he is a long corner, and he's heavy too. He's almost 200. He's almost 200 pounds for a corner man. This year, he's going crazy. I watched him. In the Washington game, he went crazy on Michael Penix. I think he ended up getting a pick, and he's got a couple sacks this season too. Which you're getting sacks at the corner position. Either that line ain't picking up, but it's special. And you don't see guys that want to get physical. I mean, 34 tackles at a corner position this year, 3 interceptions, and he's got the length. And we just know that Pittsburgh historically, right, the defense is always sound. And I think Joey Porter Jr. coming into his own in year 2, I think he's going to project as a starter. But Kyrie Jackson, I think, is somebody that you're going to come in. He's instantly going to compete for one of those corner spots on the boundary.
Yeah, and Kyrie Jackson went to Bama at first, transferred to Oregon, so that lets you know his pedigree coming out of high school. 6'3", 197. physical corner, can play zone very well, and the blitzing that the Pittsburgh likes to do. He can play man or play zone. He's a little bit better in zone right now than man-to-man coverage, but he'll get that. And I mean, that this draft would be stupid for them. It would be insane.
Yeah. This would be a game changer for them. And look, this year, almost Mike Tomlin did not have a winning season. It almost didn't happen, right? So this draft coming up for the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's not only important for Mike Tomlin, for the whole Pittsburgh Steelers franchise. And a draft like this, again, even if they don't get Jaden Daniels, there's going to be a quarterback that slides. There's going to be somebody who slides. There's going to be some new story. And it's almost, I hate to say, it's like some of these owners, they watch ESPN to like make their mind up or their decisions, right? As if it's so important. So, but there's going to be somebody who slides. So switch them out with Drake May, switch them out with Michael Penix Jr. There's going to be a quarterback, and there are going to be other people here. This is a loaded draft. Mm-hmm. Moving on to Omar, and forgive me if I'm saying this wrong, Omar Spites. Is that right? At
LSP.
Spates. Thank you, sir. Thank you, gentlemen. So over 300 tackles in his career at Oregon State before transferring to LSU.
Yeah,
this guy can take in. We all know it's linebacker university when it takes and comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? And they love their linebackers, even if they already have good linebackers there. There's going to be a linebacker that they draft. That's just how they love it. 6'1", 237 pounds, rocked up second level defender, very impressive mass, great open field tackler. There's not enough good things I could take and say about this guy. Then we got Dylan Johnson, running back out of Washington. Goodness gracious, man, he is dope. He is. I am such a Dylan Johnson fan. He is. I would argue he's probably my top 3, maybe top 4 favorite running back in this whole year's draft is Dylan Johnson, man. He can take over a game. He can put a team on his back. Now they have Michael Penix Jr., so that's his job. But man, when receivers are locked down, you can count on Dylan Johnson. Now they already have Najee Harris. So you can imagine Najee Harris and Dylan Johnson. It's going to be a long day for you.
Well, Najee, let's be honest, man, and I like Najee. I liked him coming out, man, but he hasn't had the career that we thought he would have right now. I think in the back half of this season, you started to see him kind of turn into the guy that we thought he could be over these last few weeks. Here's the thing I will say about Dylan Johnson. I know he just suffered an ankle injury, and they haven't disclosed it, but he did suffer an injury in his last game. They say he's expected to play, but I can tell you this, man, him going and playing this physical Michigan team, I worry about him not being at 100%, especially if he does intend to come out, because you could really get messed up in this game and ruin your shot to really perform well and test well for these teams. On the upside, right, he's a pretty explosive runner. He's not got the top end speed, but he's decisive with his cut, and when he makes his decision, he's through the hole. Big physical guy as well. But the thing that really stands out to me about Dylan Johnson this year is how good he is in pass pro for his quarterback. Michael Penix, we're not talking about him the same way if Dylan Johnson is not in front of him, picking up all of these blitzes and just all of these stunts and stuff like that. That is where he excels, and I think that is why he could find a home in this backfield with Pittsburgh. It's something that we haven't seen Najee really be able to do in the history of his career, which is excel at the pass protection. So I think when you got to have, those got to have it third downs, this is who you could either hand the ball to him or you put him in there for that extra layer of protection if you need to go for it.
I can tell you he's not going to be a guy that the Steelers are inside the 10 and they're not going to be able to get in the end zone. Mm-hmm. Dude has a nose for the end zone. He's on that team with all the weapons they have and has 16 rushing touchdowns this year, just shy of 1,200 yards. Like, dude's a menace. Pass blocking is great, but he will run through your face. And I think that if he was drafted by them, Najee would not be starting. I legitimately think Dylan Johnson is a guy like that, and he has a nose for the end zone. And the fact that he could do that with all those weapons they have, and he's still picking up 16 touchdowns when guys have 12, 11 catching touchdowns, etc. He's a guy that I think is going to be an impact player. And if they got him in the 6th round, well, I think this is where that at 6th round, and that'd be stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be crazy. And with the injury, there's that possibility he could not test well, but the tape speaks for itself. So then we have Ricky Barber, man, coming out of my town, man. Orlando, Florida, UCF. Now, he's a little bit of a smaller defensive tackle. I would not describe him as a sack machine. He only had 4 sacks while at UCF, but a great run stopper, can take on double teams and handle that. That's a guy that you really want in rotation, keeping him fresh in there, and he will create plays for you because he's only 6'1". I think he's 290 pounds. He has very low pad leverage, and he has an awesome rip move. His rip move, man, is one of the best that I've seen out of any D tackles in this year's draft. So, yeah, he had a great senior season, and I'm excited to take and see what he does on the next level, the NFL. And if he goes on a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers, man, where they can grow and develop him more, I could see in potentially 2, 3, maybe 4 years from now, he'll be an absolute menace in the backfield.
Yeah, I think he could definitely contribute in Pittsburgh. I think the thing that you have to be careful with these undersized defensive tackles, right, is that Aaron Donald is the exception. He's not the rule. So just because you're undersized in college doesn't mean that you're going to come out and be that guy in the NFL. I think it's unique where he would fit in this defense because he has a great prolific edge rusher and TJ Watt. I think Nick Herbig is coming into his own this season. He's shown flashes of what he could be. I think as long as those edges are firing off, there's going to create opportunities in the middle for him to go and get his. But if they're looking at Ricky Barber, he is definitely a project or a project prospect, right? This is not a guy that's going to slot in day one. This is a year 2, year 3. He could be a contributor. I don't know if I ever see him being a prolific star, but this is a guy that you'll be able to put in 60-70% of the snaps year 2 and 3. Something
and play that end position because they play at 3-4, so
yeah,
they can move a small quote unquote D tackle to defensive end in the 3-4 and free up some space for TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith.
Something I know we're talking the draft, but I think something that's it's not being talked about enough, and I'm glad that I got you guys here with me as it pertains to Pittsburgh, man. We just talked about Mike T's impressive run, 17 straight seasons without a losing record. I don't think if it's been done in the NFL, I can't remember when it is. It's before my time, probably. But it's a very prolific thing. There are a lot of rumors that the job in Pittsburgh could be open this year, and not because of a lack of what Mike T has been able to do, but maybe it's time for a new flavor in Pittsburgh. And that the things that Mike T excels at, right, which is defense and building a culture and getting people to buy in and do the right things, that is not what's needed for this Pittsburgh Steelers team right now. They need to figure out how to generate offense in the modern NFL. But there are several teams, I think we all know them, that could use culture and discipline and figuring out, building these foundational blocks from the ground up that I think, if for some reason, if Mike T at the end of the season says, hey, it's been fun, but I also want to change the pace, or they say, hey, no harm, no foul, we appreciate everything that you've done, but we want to get a new flavor in here. I think Mike T is one of the first head coaches, one of the first available coaches off the board to go to one of these open jobs. And I think depending on if and when that move happens, how Pittsburgh draft is going to be heavily influenced by who's in that by who's holding down the head coach and offense. This to me does not scream a Mike Tomlin draft, because I think a hallmark of the Mike Tomlin era is they're going to pull some kind of funky weapon out of nowhere, like a receiver, somebody that ain't nobody really tracking, and it's going to be a guy. Pittsburgh, ever since Mike Tomlin's been there,
they draft smart, man.
They draft receivers, bro. They draft receivers. I think they're probably one of the best teams in the NFL at drafting NFL-capable receivers that, if nothing else, they're going to work in Pittsburgh, and maybe they go on to work other places else. I mean, this is the same team that gave us Antonio Brown. And say whatever you want to say about Antonio Brown and how it ended. Antonio Brown was an absolute steal, and I think he's a 6th-round receiver. Am I correct, Mike?
Absolutely.
So I believe.
And they got a guy right now, right? The attitudes in that receiver room are a little bit funky, but Deontay Johnson, I think we will all agree that's a very serviceable receiver. George Pickens, also, another serviceable receiver that's young. These guys could project as 2s, maybe even 1s on other rosters. So, going to be really interesting to see what decisions Pittsburgh decides to make with respect to Mike T, because we would have to come back and do this whole mock draft over again, depending on who's coming in there and what the attitude is going to be.
It'll be interesting for sure, man. Ladies and gentlemen, comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you lean more towards Soup? And hey, they Mike Tomlin could potentially be out of there. I think Mike Tomlin's fine. I don't think he's going nowhere. I just think, hey, it's time for a quarterback change, and that will fix a lot of problems. But we'll see what happens. Comment below. Let us know your thoughts. Hit that subscribe button. We'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching another episode of the Touchdown with Doug Smith, where I cover all 32 NFL teams plus NFL exclusive interviews. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell for the alerts. Comment below, and we'll catch you next time on the Touchdown with Doug Smith.